Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mac. Boys and girls, strap on your Bible belts, I guess. Today's going to be biblical.
Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation.
I don't know if it's going to be all that intense. Might want to dial that back just a little bit. John, how many Q posts are in front of the...
13?
Yes, sir. 3551 is where we last left you. 23 minutes after the hour 12. Q's talking about voter ID. Not the first time, not the last time. Meaning how many times our elections have been rigged. Reread past drops regarding voter ID. Okay, well, we've got a ton of Q posts in front of us, so I'm not interested in digging up a whole bunch of old posts that we already pretty much understand. Look, the idea is this. Democrats don't want voter ID because they're trying to ship everybody from across the borders to get in and vote Democrat. They think that's the virtuous thing to do. And they think that all of these people that are going to come across the border illegally are just going to sort of blindly vote Democrat. They might even be surprised to find out that they won't. But that's the whole idea, right? They want to go ahead and fix these elections. And of course, this isn't the first time we've had a rigged election. We've already seen the evidence in this last election. I wouldn't be surprised if Barack Obama's numbers were a little bit inflated as well. And of course, anybody who's either lived in Arkansas or familiar with the Clintons for decades, we know that they've been fixing it for a long time. Who really knows how long time this has been going on? But one thing that would help a lot would be a voter ID. And, look, if you need you need an ID to sign up for cable or for internet or this and that. You need an ID to drive a car. You need an ID to do a lot of things. And, so I would assume that needing an ID to vote seems pretty logical to me. Well, Democrats don't want logic, and all you have to do is watch their debates to understand that. And I think we all truly understand this. We also know that, essentially their highest demographic are illegal immigrants. We've seen it on these heat maps that Q has sent us before. We get this idea. Voter ID helps. Voter ID is going to be a big deal, and POTUS is already pushing that ID in. We're going to talk about that in the next post right here, 3552, 25 minutes after the hour of 12. This is a tweet from the POTUS at 1141. It says, we should immediately pass voter ID. Imagine that. At voter ID, please, to ensure the safety and sanctity of our voting system. Also, paper ballots as backup. Old-fashioned, but true. Thank you. And POTUS was hyperlinking this right here. Where we go one, we go all at voter ID, please. How about that? Come on, America. Follow and show your support to require a valid ID to vote. Let's keep this country on the right track. MAGA. Where we go one, we go all. The Anon says, thanks, Baker. Missed POTUS linking a QAnon at voter ID, please. Would say that might be notable. Direct to a page, not a specific. I think they meant to say tweet there. They meant to say tweet. That's what's going on. Q confirms. So POTUS linking a QAnon account. And of course, this wasn't lost on the Hill. Just in. Trump tags QAnon account in calling for voter ID. And if you scroll down here, you guys can see all of you commenting. Yep, it's all you guys. Just pretty sweet. I've yet to comment. Don't know if I will. Just enjoying the show. Anyway, very, very cool. And of course, The Hill called it out. And I'm sure the Ben Collins and the Will Sommers of the world are scribbling away right now to try and get some knuckleheadery out to either the Huffington Post or the Daily Beast or the WAPO or wherever they're writing for. Yeah! Post 3553, 34 minutes after the hour of 12. We get another Twitter status here to Enoch on Twitter. Do you believe in coincidences? And Enoch made a sweet little graphic right here. Let's just look over here on the left side. This is a question from December 12th on 8chan, and then below was Q's answer. The question was, will voter fraud be exposed before January? And Q had said no. 2019 push voter ID based on verifiable intel. Well, verifiable intel is coming in, and I imagine once D-Class comes in, there will be a lot more perspective into the Russian aspect of collusion, right? 2020 plus is safeguarded. Of course, that was answered on the same day, December 12, 2018. And Enoch is comparing this to the tweet today and including in the graphic that we just talked about. That's what all these fancy little lines are here. Just basically saying that Q talked about this last year. And that pushing voter ID would really be the big thing there. So thanks, Enoch. I appreciate that graphic there. Q says time travel is fun. Or...
The prophecy is true.
Q, post 3554, 38 minutes after the hour 12. See, this is why I didn't go back over these Q posts, because they just came back to us here. This is a post from February 11th, and this was talking about voter ID. And the graphic up here, it's rather small, I know, but you can see these little blue dots right here. These are where illegal immigrants tend to settle. And then, of course, the red dots here are where they tend to vote Democrat. And oddly enough, they're the same exact places. And Q's just going over, why do Democrats push for no voter ID? Well, we know that it's because the illegal immigrants are their voter base now. And it talks about voter ID not suppressing votes or deterring minority. That was ruled by the Supreme Court 6-3. So we've already got the support on this. It looks like ID is going to be a good idea. And to be quite honest with you, I think a lot of Democrats that are, rather centrist or maybe getting a little bit tired of all this mess, people that aren't necessarily unhinged, I think they, even if they think that Trump meddled in the election, I think they would probably be down for voter ID. So I don't think that this is going to be that hard to deal with. But I do think that there's going to be that, that faction of unhinged Democratic left, if you will, that are going to say that this is a suppression of minority votes. Well, the real minorities that are getting suppressed here are illegal immigrants, and that's the way it ought to be, because you're not allowed to vote in anybody else's election either. Prepare for voter ID, voter suppression of minority votes. So it looks like this is going to come out. There's going to be a big push to this. I wouldn't be surprised if something gets implemented by the time we have a presidential election, because that's what this is really about. And I think they know they don't have a really good chance of winning. I think that's about the only way they can cheat. And like Q just said, that it happened before, it's going to happen again. So let's move on. Post 3555, 52 minutes after the hour of 12, we get another Twitter link to Devin Nunes status. Q says targets may be closer than they appear. Hunters become the hunted. And it's a picture of Devin Nunes from back in 2001 who says, hunting for chupacabras. I'm not so sure that is a chupacabra. Okay, well, if you're not familiar with chupacabras, it's kind of like saying we're going snipe hunting. It's sort of this mythical creature. Now, there's a lot of argument as to whether or not the chupacabra actually exists, and a lot of compelling information to suggest that it might, but it's this goat-killing animal that was roaming the Southwest, may still be, and no one's ever really found a ton. They found a lot of creatures that they think could be the chupacabra. I don't want to get way into the chupacabra. The point is that Devin Nunes made this joke a while back, referring to Russian collusion, saying that basically this hunting for Russian collusion was as simple as looking for the Loch Ness Monster or chupacabra. I think out of the two, there's probably a better chance of finding a chupacabra. Just saying. There's actually probably a better chance of finding a chupacabra than finding Russian collusion. But the point is that Devin Nunes is trolling hard, troll level Space Force. Q says targets may be closer than they appear. That's usually what happens when you put objects in a mirror, right? Hunters become the hunted. And if you'll remember, Devin Nunes was hunted for a while. Democrats went after him in 2017, and he supposedly recused himself from the House Intelligence investigation into Russia, and then he used his chairman powers to sort of not do that. Democrats were incensed. They went after him hard, and of course, it looks like Devin Nunes is probably going to get the last laugh once Bill Barr hands him all the bacony, cheesy goodness, and now he's going to become the hunter. And I want to point out, too, that whether or not chupacabras actually exist, they are known to suck the blood from their prey, kind of like a vampire or a Democrat or a Clinton. Let's move on. Post 3556, 56 minutes after the hour of 12. We see that Hill link that I just showed you right there. Trump tags QAnon account in calling for voter ID law. The Hill verified account is basically just saying the same thing. And then this is the link to that link that I just took you to. And this was a quote from the Hill article. Trump has periodically called for stricter voter ID laws, which advocates warn could restrict ballot access in low-income communities, students, and people of color, like clockwork. ID required when? Well, Q just said this, right? That this kind of stuff was going to basically ignite the race card. Let's face it, everything ignites the race card these days. I think we're all getting pretty used to it, right? Sheep follow the most absurd arguments. Yeah, it's really rather absurd. And, honestly, it doesn't matter how loud they bark at this point. I think the majority of America understands what's up and what's at stake here. Democratic Party voter corruption on display. Yeah, and this is going to just show it. And as we start to get some D-class coming out, showing how the Democrats actually did interfere with our election, this will turn on its head really, really quick. So I'll be quite honest with you. Although it's asinine to watch in the media, I think we know where this is all going.
Everyone's a little bit racist sometimes.
Post 3557 comes in at 1 o'clock. Q is adding on to this post 3555 regarding the chupacabra. And that's what this PB means. Previous bread, meaning previous thread of information. Placeholder, D-class, exculpatory evidence, illegal hold, non-report, FISA, T, surveillance. T equals targets or targeted. Watch the news this week. Okay, well, this came in yesterday. And actually, at the time that it had come in, it had just come in. I didn't have much time to really look at it. But we knew that this is coming in actually today, Wednesday, is when we're supposed to find out some more information from Devin Nunes. Looks like they're going to drop a D-class. I had guessed whether or not this T meant Trump, but it looks like it just simply means target. So it could mean a lot of different people. It could obviously mean the ones that were targeted with FISA surveillance, which is what it would seem to suggest, right? FISA T surveillance. So would that be Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, of course, Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort? That would be my guess at this point, that those were the ones that were targeted. It looks like that could very well be our placeholder. So I wouldn't be surprised if Q drops something over there on the post-only board, the Patriotsfight board. Could very well be, but like we talked about yesterday, Joe DeGeneva suggested that this something was going to be dropping Wednesday. So Q says, watch the news this week. We will do that, and as soon as it does, I'm sure this will all probably kind of fall into place. Let's move on for now. Post 3558, 4 minutes after the hour 1, we get a little snippet here from an article from RT, and Q posts a big part of it right here. Trump threatens worst trade deal for China if Beijing stalls until after his re-election. U.S. President Donald Trump has once again criticized China's trade practices, warning negotiations could get tougher. The statements come as Beijing and Washington are headed into another round of trade negotiations in Shanghai. In a series of tweets on Tuesday, Trump warned if China waits and he wins re-election, the trade deal will be much tougher for Beijing. China is doing very badly. Worst year in 27. We're supposed to start buying our agricultural product now. No signs that they are doing so. That is the problem with China. They just don't want to come through, Trump wrote. My team is negotiating with them now, but they always change the deal in the end to their benefit. They should probably wait out our election to see if we get one of the Democrat stiffs like Sleepy Joe. Then they could make a great deal like in past 30 years and continue to rip off the USA, even bigger and better than ever before. And that's kind of the whole point of the matter, right? U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer will meet on Tuesday and Wednesday in Shanghai with a delegation led by China's Vice President Liu He. According to Trump, the problem with them waiting, however, is that when I win, the deal that they get will be much tougher than what we are negotiating now, or no deal at all. We have all the cards. Our past leaders never got it. And this is the link to the article right there. Yeah, that's sort of the point. China's holding off here, thinking that probably because a lot of Democrats were telling them that, hey, if you just wait out, we're going to impeach this cat, or we're going to put a Democrat in office, and we're going to go right back to giving you the sweet deal that you had before. And so China's just going to kind of hang and play this sort of stalling game, right? And that was in regards to this post here from July 25th, 2019, just the other day, 3501. Possible China monitored Mueller hearing. Yeah, you bet they did. They're watching everything. Possible China analyzing likelihood of POTUS re-election 2020. Yeah, and if they're smart, they're probably going to be able to see that POTUS is likely to win. But of course, if they're watching mainstream media, that might not be what they're thinking. Possible China taking steps, think propaganda to harm POTUS regarding 2020. Yeah, I imagine so. I imagine a lot of things are going to kind of get tense in the Spratly Islands. I imagine we're going to have a whole lot more war drum banging out there in Iran. Anything that can make POTUS look bad on the run up to 2020 so that they can get a Democrat in there. And of course, we know that Joe Biden's been over there messing with a lot of stuff. Probably Feinstein, Maxine Waters, who knows who else, right? Probably offering China some sweet deals. And that was what this post was sort of all about. Possible China in secret comms with Democratic candidates running for president regarding reinstituting the U.S. piggy bank. So we know that some of them are candidates running for president. Possible China in secret comms with former Democratic Party senior officials regarding reinstituting the U.S. piggy bank. Well, both of those actually Joe Biden fits under, right? But there's likely more. Possible China put extreme threatening pressure on North Korea the day of the Mueller hearing. Coincidence? Should hearing swing to POTUS? Yeah, and if you'll remember, they fired off some short-range missiles. And they just fired off something else yesterday, too. And they didn't really technically call it a missile. I think it was just some sort of small things that only went a couple hundred miles. Either way, they were still firing stuff off to distract from all this. Possible acts were taken in effort to diminish, lessen the Democratic blow. Possible acts were taken in effort to change the narrative, define false flag. We know what a false flag is, and we know that Democrats are full of them. Q says, news unlocks. Fire 5, meaning loud and clear. I think we get you, Q. Let's move on. Post 3559, 18 minutes after the hour of 1, we get a Twitter status to Victoria R. Gates on Twitter. You need an ID for all these, but not to vote. And you can see, we've seen this here. Yes on alcohol, cigarettes, opening a bank account, food stamps, welfare, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment, rent, or buy a house. You get the idea. You need an ID for a ton of stuff. To vote, not so much. Nope, not to basically decide on the leader of the free world. Well, we all know that's ridiculous, and I don't think it takes a meme to show us, but it most certainly helps to keep promoting this stuff to the Democrats so that they can finally see the logic in this. Q says logical. Q, indeed it is. And here's another one on 3560, 27 minutes after the hour of 1. We get this Twitter link right here to Battleborn. And I showed you this yesterday. This is actually, I believe it's an older video because I've seen still pictures of this easily must have been a year ago now. But this was the Red Cross here. Why does the Red Cross have all this money? And it was just boxes and boxes of all this cash. Well, keep in mind, Red Cross goes into all these countries and they offer up this quote unquote humanitarian aid. They offer to rebuild hospitals and all this kinds of stuff. Meanwhile, they're getting all this coin. They're one of the biggest charities on the planet. Where's all that money going? It looks like it's going into those boxes and boxes. And you see what's up, and knowing what you know now, you know that a lot of these humanitarian organizations are just fronts for taking in cash for the deep state. It goes right back into them. They can funnel it right back into somebody's campaign foundation or whatever it might be. But either way, the Red Cross is sitting on it. And remember, Red Cross was knee deep in Haiti. I also want to remind you too that knowing what you know now, don't forget that the Red Cross doesn't just take in a bunch of coin, they also take a lot of donated blood. Just saying. Logical Q. Let's move on. Post 3561, 32 minutes after the hour 1. We get a set of links here. Q says, the more you know. MSM coverage. When you control the media, you control public opinion. Indeed, you do. Well, let's take a glance at some of these links here. The first one is an audit to the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Gives us the info. This is from 2017. Now, it is a 46-page document here, so we are not going to go through this thing here, but we're just making a point. The second link here takes you to this. This was recent. From May of 2019, May 21st. U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa and Representative Bernie Thompson of Mississippi today introduced legislation to give the Congressional Watchdog Arm complete access to American Red Cross records for oversight purposes. The bipartisan, bicameral American Red Cross Transparency Act of 2019 responds to concerns that the Red Cross tried to quash a review by the Government Accountability Office, GAO, of its practices, successfully limiting the scope of the review and has failed to be as transparent as it should be. Indeed. So this just happened as of recent. Let me just take you down here real quick. The Red Cross has been a component of disaster responses for decades, but that does not put them above congressional oversight. The public should know how the Red Cross spends both taxpayer dollars and the funds Americans generously donate. With Hurricanes Katrina, Sandy, and Harvey and the 2010 Haiti earthquake, we have seen the Red Cross struggle to fulfill its disaster response mission. Okay, well, let me just stop right there. For those of you, I'd say most of you probably understand where we're going with this, but for those of you who don't, here's the deal. Groups like the Red Cross, not just the Red Cross, but groups like it, will go into these countries that have either been struck with some sort of thing like a hurricane or something like that, or Haiti earthquake, all these places where you get a lot of displaced families and animals and whatnot, and they go in there under the guise of humanitarian aid. Of course, they get tons and tons of taxpayer dollars to go do so, and they rarely are able to fulfill their mission. And of course, although a lot of people would like to blame Trump for that, it's these groups who aren't fulfilling what they're supposed to do. But what ends up happening is that they end up grabbing a bunch of these displaced kids, and then we have also these crazy situations like we did with Laura Silsby, who was trafficking these kids from across the border from Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And it's human trafficking. And they're able to do it because there's, like I said, these people are displaced. Everything is chaotic right there. They've either dealt with a hurricane or a typhoon or whatnot, flooding, earthquakes. And so you got kids running all over the place. Meanwhile, the Red Cross comes in, takes a whole bunch of blood, takes a whole bunch of money, but struggles to fulfill its disaster response mission. Well, I would like to argue that they're probably not struggling with their actual mission. They're just not telling us what their actual mission is. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down here, this is what leads to a lot of human trafficking. A lot of kids get ushered out of these countries in the wake of these disasters and put into these adoption agencies, shipped overseas for God knows what. But that's where the human trafficking problems begin. And we're starting to see a lot of these different quote-unquote humanitarian organizations that are related to this, how they're relating to the shipping industries, the port industries, and then, of course, adoption agencies once they get either into the U.S. or wherever they're going to. And we just saw the boxes and boxes that of all that cash that the American Red Cross has taken. Well, if they're not fulfilling their mission, what are they doing with all that coin? Well, Chuck Grassley just said that his investigations have been quashed, and this is essentially what this is. This is an investigation from June of 2016. And this is a 300-page document, so we're not going to cruise through this, but it just mentions Haiti right in the beginning here and what they were trying to do. As a result of these challenges, ARC, being the American Red Cross, struggled to fulfill some of its pledges for Haiti. Yeah, that is a pretty much an understatement. They said they were going to build a bunch of homes, and they most certainly did not. They raped Haiti of all their resources, their children. Meanwhile, the Clinton Foundation went in there also and gave Hillary Clinton's brother access to their gold mines. So they were literally raping this country. Now, the last link takes you here, and this was the very next day. This was dated June 15th, 2016. This is June 16th, 2016 from NPR. Report, Red Cross spent 25% of Haiti donations on internal expenses. Yeah, and I think on average about 10 cents to the dollar actually goes to some sort of, something productive, really. The rest goes right to them. The American Red Cross spent a quarter of the money people donated after the 2010 Haiti earthquake, or almost $125 million, on its own internal expenses, far more than the charity previously had disclosed, according to a report released Thursday by Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley. So as you can see, this has been something that Grassley's been on for quite some time. The report also says the charity's top officials stonewalled congressional investigators and released incomplete information about its Haiti program to the public. It concludes there are substantial and fundamental concerns about the Red Cross as an organization. The report follows a nearly year-long investigation by the Iowa Republican and his staff, launched after coverage by NPR and ProPublica of the Red Cross Haiti response. The venerated charity raised nearly $500 million after the disaster, more than any other nonprofit, but an ambitious plan to build housing resulted in just 6 permanent homes, NPR and ProPublica found. So, This was a big deal. And like I just said, this is more than just taking in a whole bunch of cash. They are also taking in blood. And I'm sure you can pretty much imagine what they're doing with some of that blood, right? But this charity's long been suspect. But as long as you hire a couple of big name actors or singers or whatever to tell the public that this is what it's all about, and you're a racist if you disagree or if you think that you're going to call their bluff, that's how it's worked. They've always used virtue signaling to make you think that if you're against this, then you're obviously not supporting Haiti, or you're obviously not supporting Hurricane Katrina or whatnot. Fact of the matter is, you just know better. You know that your money is not going to these organizations. So if you're looking to dedicate, to donate some money, I think that's a fantastic thing, and I think that there's a lot of fantastic charities out there. Unfortunately, a lot of that responsibility is leaning on us to do our research into these charities and to make sure that we know where they're going. But it looks like Chuck Grassley knows exactly all about that. But the real key here is this right here, I think, this American Red Cross Transparency Act. And of course, Q just posted those boxes and boxes of cash. So I have a feeling we're going to get some more news on that. Once again, Q says the more you know. And if you've kind of caught on to my edits, that is a catchphrase for NBC, and it has been. It was an old catchphrase for them. MSM coverage? No, of course they're not covering that. Now, to be fair, they did report on some of this back in about 2016. They did report this, and it was actually on MSNBC. Red Cross kind of fought back, but I think a lot of that was just optics. Now, MSNBC has also been involved with a lot of blood drives for the American Red Cross. I'm not sure if that's the connection that Q is making there, other than just saying that MSM really isn't covering this. When you control the media, you control public opinion. Let's move on. Post 3562, 17 minutes after the hour 7. No! He sent among them swarms of flies, which devoured them, and frogs, which destroyed them. Pepe's a frog. That's Psalm 78, verses 45. And as you can see, you got Hillary with a fly on her face, and Obama with a fly on her face. And then you got Pepe that eats flies. Now, in regards to CP, I imagine it is the author of this, or whoever made this meme. It's got Milo Yiannopoulos' logo down at the bottom here. But just keep in mind, this is not from Q, so I'm not going to spend time breaking things down that aren't Q. I don't know who CP is. Probably the meme maker. Could be something different. Honestly, I don't know that I care that much. But still, the meme's pretty funny. And incidentally, Las Vegas just got hit with a swarm of grasshoppers, green grasshoppers, that are munching all over. I can't remember what it was. They were eating up something, but oddly enough, a swarm. And guess who else got a swarm? Yeah, this was in January, but it was of this year, was Mecca. They got hit with a swarm of locusts. Yikes, that sounds pretty biblical right there. Let's move on. 3563, 23 minutes after the hour of 7. Speaking of biblical, we get this Twitter link right here to one of my least favorite people on the planet, the Pope. Let us pray that Lord will free the victims of human trafficking, and help us to respond actively to the cry for help of so many of our brothers and sisters who are deprived of their dignity and freedom. #end human trafficking. All right, well, look, Popey Pants. Let me get you closer so you can see me. First of all, we need somebody to respond actively to what's underneath your walls. All right, what are they digging up down there? They found some bones. They were looking for a girl. What's going on? What's in your wallet, Pope Francis? What's going on beneath the Vatican right there? I thought those were catacombs. What's really going on down there? Maybe you better fix your own little rapey problem before you start talking about ending human trafficking. Well, I think we know what's up here, right? Q says Godfather 3 is going to be biblical. And if you're not aware of the plot of Godfather 3, Michael Corleone, at this point, he's kind of later on in the game, and he wants to go legit style, so he decides to donate a whole bunch of money to the Vatican in exchange for shares into an immobiliare. And this was the point that, if you've been following my channel for a while, I was asking you guys to help me remind me of this island. And it was an island in France. Berder, that's what it was. Berder. And you may remember that from that odd POTUS tweet when POTUS tweeted about the hamburgers. Was he talking about Berder Island? Well, on that island is this odd hotel that was bought up by an immobiliare. Now, I don't know if that is a connection or not. But I do think we see a connection between the Red Cross and the Vatican, right? And a ton of money goes into the Vatican too. This is basically a nonprofit organization that happens to be the largest bank in the world. Godfather 3, it's going to be biblical. What's under those walls, Pope?
You the devil. You the devil. You a Satanist, huh? Hey.
Now let me throw one more thing out here before we move on to the next post. We've got a few more still coming. Q is still posting. But in regards to this biblical reference, now let me just call this an hypothesis, all right? But this could be a different meaning too. And I just want to throw the idea out there in regards to our boy Paul Manafort, or as I like to call Plantafort, right? Homeboy had himself a ledger that they were talking about in the news. Now, I am not referring to the ledger that they're talking about. However, it is possible that our boy Paul Manafort, who's been around for a long time, think about it, he's been fixing things for a long time, since back in the 80s, and he's traveled for a long time. What say he had himself a ledger? And in this ledger, it had all sorts of deep secrets about all sorts of deep state knuckleheadedry. But there wasn't just one of these ledgers. There was a group of them all over the world. Some of them may be on Earth. Some of them may not be. And what if those group of ledgers were known as the Bible? And there were a lot of people wanting to get their hands on what was in that information, although it's still hidden. Now, again, it's just an hypothesis. But for those who know what I'm talking about, you can send me a message and let me know what you know on that. But that was the biblical reference I was talking about some weeks ago. And I'm going to leave you on that for now. I'm going to keep it vague on purpose for now. I have a feeling we're all going to find out very, very soon. Let me move on to 3564. 11 o'clock on the dot, we get this link here to this Guardian article. Secret tasks cast light on UK's early role in Trump-Russia inquiry. Two of the most senior intelligence officials in the US and UK, privately shared concerns about our strange situation as the FBI launched its 2016 investigation into whether Donald Trump's campaign was colluding with Russia, the Guardian has learned. Text messages between Andrew McCabe, the deputy director of the FBI at the time, and Jeremy Fleming, his then counterpart at MI5, now the head of GCHQ, also revealed their mutual surprise at the result of the EU referendum, which some officials regarded as a wake-up call, according to a person familiar with the matter. And I just want to interject, he's the head of the GCHQ because shortly after POTUS's December 2017 EO, the original one stepped down, or I should say the previous, not the original. While Russia had previously been viewed as a country that would seek to interfere in Western elections, the Brexit vote was viewed by some within the FBI as a sign that Russian activities had possibly been successful, the person said. Their exchanges offer new insights into the start of the FBI's Russia investigation and how British intelligence appears to have played a key role in the early stages. In one exchange in August 2016, Fleming noted that members of the FBI and MI5 had met on our strange situation, a veiled reference to discussions about Russian activities, according to the source. I wonder if we've got photos of that. A spokesperson for McCabe declined to comment. The exchanges underscore a sensitive issue in the U.S., namely the role foreign intelligence services played in the FBI's decision to initiate an investigation into the Trump campaign. On the 31st of July 2016, the FBI opened a covert counterintelligence investigation codenamed Crossfire Hurricane into the then presidential candidate's possible collusion with Russia. The investigation was eventually taken over by the special counsel Robert Mueller, who has said there were multiple systematic efforts to interfere in our election by Russia. Mueller's 448-page report, did not establish a criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia, but it did identify incidents in which Trump attempted to obstruct justice in the investigation and did not clear the president of wrongdoing. Of course, keep in mind we're reading from The Guardian here. Now, it says here in his text message about the August 2016 meeting, Fleming appeared to be making a reference to Peter Strzok, a senior FBI official who traveled to London that month to meet the Australian diplomat Alexander Downer. Downer had agreed to speak with FBI about a Trump campaign advisor, George Papadopoulos, who had told him that Russia had dirt on Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee in the race. The meeting was first reported by the New York Times. Amazing. We were just talking about the possibility of that happening yesterday, when Boris Johnson, the UK Foreign Secretary at the time, was asked in November 2017 whether Russia had played any role in British elections. He told MPs in a select committee that he had not seen any evidence of such an occurrence. The new revelation comes as authorities in the UK are investigating the funding behind a pro-Brexit campaign and whether it might have included illegal foreign donations. And I want to stop right there once again and remind you, Q posted a big picture one time of a pro-Brexit campaign, was kind of implying that. That was just a couple months ago. The National Crime Agency is investigating the insurance executive and political donor Aaron Banks, who is suspected by the UK's Electoral Commission of not being the true source of $8 million in funding to lead the EU campaign. The matter was referred to the NCA by the Commission after it had said it had reasonable grounds to suspect a number of criminal offenses. Okay, well, like I just said, we were just talking about this in yesterday's show. What was the origins? How did this meeting come to be with Alexander Downer and George Papadopoulos over there at the London Embassy, right? And, we know that a lot of these texts are going to give us some insight. We also knew from yesterday's show that Joe DeGenova was teasing this and was letting us know that a lot of this stuff was dropping Wednesday. And here's our preview. This Guardian article looks to be kind of getting out in front of it here, but we get more lending to that point here in 3565, 8 minutes after the hour of 11. This is a Twitter status to guess who? George Papadopoulos, who says transcripts are out tomorrow. The first demonstrable proof to show that not only did we not collude, but the whole world was against us, and Donald Trump still won in 2016. When it's all said and done, the story will be of a global effort to take us down that backfired big time. Nice. Q says, see Guardian article. How do you get ahead of a story? Well, you just drop it first. Coincidence? Not at all. Outstanding. So, I have a feeling by the time that you guys are getting this video, stuff will be probably dropping all around you, and we could be swimming in information even within a few hours. So I'm going to leave it at that because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more to comment on, but I think you see what's up. We've seen this coming for quite some time. And of course, when big things drop, we also know what else comes, and that's what 3566 is about. 41 minutes after the hour 11, we have a 24-hour warning. Be vigilant. See something, say something. Know your surroundings at all times. Indeedly do. I would avoid any kind of public parks and stuff like that for the next 24 hours. Any of that kind of stuff that whatever you can do to keep yourself and your family safe, I highly suggest it. I don't like to be over cautionary. You got to live your lives. But you guys know what to do. You're all smart. You know what to do. See something, say something. Let your authorities know if you see something that's going on, anything that looks kind of spooky. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Patriots, those are your Q posts for today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're new here, welcome to you. Please understand that from time to time, you're going to get unclicked, unnotified, and unsubscribed. It happens all the time. I'm aware of it. You don't need to make me aware of it. But what I would greatly appreciate is if you just check back and re-click yourself. I highly suggest once you find my page that you bookmark it or something that will help you find me a lot easier, because I will not probably show up in a lot of your video suggestions. I'm well aware of it. Thank you very much. All my alternate links are down below. Some of them are pretty squirrely. You're going to have to check back from time to time. YouTube's been pretty reliable. I'm also on DropSpace, Gab, BitChute, Gab, and BitChute. BitChute's been a little bit more reliable for me than Gab has. I'm still working out issues with Gab. I'm also over there on Brighteon.com having an issue with them as well, but I keep trying. But all those links are down below. And of course, I'm over at Twitter at IPOT1776. That's IPOT. In Pursuit of Truth 1776, and I highly suggest you join me over there because so much is going on over there at Twitter, and I cover a lot of things that we don't have time to cover here in the videos. They're all down below. If you got information for me, please do not DM me on Twitter. Please send me an email. My email is down below. My P.O. box is down below if you would like to send something old school. And if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon link is down below. It would be greatly appreciated. They're all down below in the video description. All right, kids, this is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay safe.